The AWS CLI lets you manage and interact with AWS services directly from your terminal, enabling streamlined resource management and automation. It provides the same functionality as the AWS console, but it allows you to perform tasks programmatically through commands. Google AWS CLI install. Select this top link. Scroll down and expand your operating system. For Mac OS, you can copy and run these 2 lines of code in your command line. I'm using Windows, so I'm going to download the MSI installer for Windows. Next, run the installer and follow the installation wizard. Once installation is complete, for Windows, open Command Prompt or PowerShell. For Mac, open Terminal, then run AWS --version. If this help command comes up, then your install was successful. If not, try closing your prompt window and reopening. We need to create an IAM user to access the CLI. Log into AWS Management Console. Search and navigate IAM, which is Identity and Access Management. Click on Users, click Create User, enter a username. I'm going to call my user TCF-CLI. Click Next. If I plan to add and manage many IAM users, I may want to create a permissions group, but instead I'm going to choose the Attach Policies directly. For simplicity, I will attach Administrator Access for full access, but you can select policies specific to the user's needs. For example, S3 full access or EC2 read-only. Click Next. Click Create User. Click on the user you just created. Click Create Access Key. For use case, I'm going to choose Command Line Interface CLI. Check off I understand the above recommendation and want to proceed to create an access key. Click Next. Click Create Access Key. So I just created a user that has complete programmatic admin access to my entire AWS account. Notice the message we get that says, this is the only time that the secret access key can be viewed or downloaded. You cannot recover it later. However, you can create a new access key anytime. Click Download CSV file. This file contains your access key ID and secret access key. So be sure to store this info in a safe, secure location. Put this first value in copy. It's actually access key ID, but for some reason AWS is omitting the ID suffix on their page. Now let's configure the CLI. For Windows, open Command Prompt or PowerShell. For Mac, open Terminal. Run the following command. AWS configure. For access key ID, paste in the ID we placed in copy. Then go back to AWS, click Show, and put your secret key in copy. Just remember, in the future, this secret access key will not appear again in AWS. So down the road, you'll need to copy it from the downloaded credentials CSV. Next, bring your terminal back up and paste in your secret access key. For default region, I'm going to use US East 1. Choose the region closest to your resources. Output format, I typically choose JSON. Now let's test our configuration. Run a test command like listing S3 buckets by entering AWS S3 LS. If configured correctly, you'll see your bucket list or a confirmation if no buckets exist. The sky is the limit when it comes to the CLI. You could do many things, including creating and syncing S3 buckets, but we're not limited to just S3 buckets. There's tons you can do with all the other AWS services. I have this React website hosted in an S3 bucket. Every time I make updates, I need to log into AWS and manually replace the files in my S3 bucket. I then need to create an invalidation in my CloudFront distribution so I see the changes immediately. Instead, I want to simplify things. I'm going to create scripts to automate this process right from the command line. Here's my project in VS Code. First, I'll make a simple text edit to a site heading so I can test my sync. Now open package.json so we can add some scripts within the script area. I created a new script called sync to synchronize the local files from my dist folder with my S3 bucket. Replace path with your directory path. Mine is ./dist since I used Veep, but if you used create React app, it may be ./build. Next, replace bucket name with your bucket name. My bucket is called tcf-site. If you're using a CloudFront distribution, this script forces the cache to refresh from the specified paths in the distribution. Replace DIST-ID with your CloudFront distribution ID. I then just need to run npm run sync and npm run invalidate, but instead of keeping these two scripts separate, I'll combine them into one, so I only need to run one command. Now I can save and close out of this file. I'm going to run npm run build to rebuild my project. Next, run npm run sync. Now if I bring up my website and refresh it, I can see my text change is reflected, so everything's working great. AWS CLI is a very powerful tool. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future tutorials. I'll pin a comment at the top where you can share any challenges you faced or solutions you've discovered.